So before I get going on the information about ascension, because this is lesson 14, if you can believe it, we are 14 weeks into our 20-week course, so hooray and congratulations on us. I'm also going to get going on my recording of the information that's back here, because sometimes people just listen to that as kind of like an audio broadcast. I was telling Mike a little bit about a very wonderful and powerful experience that I just had with some other members of our class. So Keith and Heidi participate not necessarily through the video conference but through the recorded classes, and they're up in Canada. They came to visit me in Fortuna just a few, like yesterday and today, and brought a friend named Jen, and we had a very powerful experience with a ritual reading the spiritual revocation contracts that Andrew Bartzis has put together for basically reclaiming one's sovereignty. So Keith printed out the information, and we brought it. We went to the Pamplin Grove, which is a set of redwood trees, and we chose that spot because redwoods are wonderful chroniclers of information. They have continuity of consciousness that goes back many, many ages. So this also ties into our whole theme here of ascension. Continuity of consciousness. You know, they called the redwood the indestructible tree or the resurrection tree, because if you cut one down and then there's kind of like a stump that's like this, the redwood has burls that are around the edges of its base, and the burls are kind of like the eyes of a potato. They are reproductive nodes. And when you cut down the top part of a tree and those nodes remain, new sprouts sprout out of the nodes. So you often find it's kind of like a fairy ring. They'll cut down a big giant tree, and so, you know, some of these old growth trees that might be I'm trying to, like, literally the diameter of the room that I'm in, but you can't see the size of the room that I'm in, but probably, let's say, the diameter of the room that you each are occupying, easily the trunk as large as that. They cut down a tree that large, and then a ring of trees sprouts up around the perimeter of where the original tree lived. And this is really a continuity of consciousness, because death is a portal that wipes your sense of self, and then you have to start again. This has positive and negative aspects to it. So for example, being wiped in that way allows you to begin anew. The mistakes of the past are relegated to the past, and you get like a pagination, a new page, a new chapter to be able to begin with consciousness. And this can be very healthy and very necessary, especially if one has made mistakes. You know something? It's very important to be able to say, like, I relegate that to the past. That was made during that incarnation, and now I'm here in this time and place experiencing, you know, the challenges of this time and place. So there's you know, a very good capability on that. But on the downside, you lose continuity of consciousness. All the things that you learned and the wisdom that you accrued and the talents and skills that you painstakingly developed throughout your experience fall by the wayside because you forget about them. Now, of course, there are some systems, like belief systems, that have maintained the capacity to figure out how to do continuity of consciousness. So one of these is Tibetan Buddhism. They have learned through techniques of meditation how to achieve continuity of consciousness when you actually die according to the corporeal sense. So this is how one can say, like, for example, the current Karmapa is the 17th incarnation of a particular consciousness or a particular entity. And that entity has continuity of consciousness, where it has simply dropped the physical corporeal body that it was using for a lifetime, but it kept its mind, its memories, its sense of coherence together, and then brought all of that, like packing your bags and then bringing all of your bags and all of your housewares simply to a new house. And then from infancy, still having that continuity of consciousness. And this is how in the Far East and in the Buddhist tradition, they are often, like, they will search for the incarnations of these lamas, that they are, you know, often very young children under the age of 5, and they will subject them to various different types of tests to see if the children remember aspects of their previous existence, and if the children pass those tests, then it is considered a corroboration that they are indeed the reincarnation of the people who have been before, and also one may reclaim memories during one's life, just similar to past existence regression. So I know I'm jumping ahead into the ascension process a little bit, but yes, Rinpoche is like a term of respect. And I missed Mike's initial comment. So Mike, you were asking about white sprouts regarding the redwood trees, because there are albino redwood trees, believe it or not, that grow in Pamplin Grove. I haven't been to where they are. You need to have a guide to find them. But they are like little symbiotic bushes that grow at the base of one of these giant trees. And they don't have chlorophyll themselves. Yes. So the little albino trees are fed or kept alive and nourished by the energy off of trees that do have chlorophyll and are able to feed off of the sun. So but when a tree dies and the new trees sprout up out of those burrows, they're completely new trees. They actually grow a new root system, but it often occupies the same soil and the same place as the old root system. So if you could envision like my hand sticking down, these are the old roots, and then imagine if they, rotted away, but in their place, there's new roots that grow. And even the rotting of the old vegetation gives nourishment and nutrient to the new generation. So an organism such as a redwood has such a vastly different viewpoint and experience based on its biological container than, for example, you or I. Not only the length of their lifespan and the length of their attention span, the quality of their attention, and redwoods and many plants and trees can be conduits of consciousness from another time and place. So this is another reason why we chose the redwood grove, because redwoods and trees in general are incredibly giving, incredibly unconditionally giving, and they act as avatars. Like the movie Avatar from James Cameron, that in that movie there were humans who lived in this realm over here, and they had a body over here, and then they had an avatar body, or a container for their consciousness that they would hop into and use it to go on adventures in that other realm. Well, there are beings from other realms who are able to hop into the body of a redwood tree as their avatar of consciousness. And redwoods, these incredibly giving, generous beings, are like, yes, please use my physical container as an antenna of consciousness so that you can come and be here in this time and place. And there's amazing portals at the base of redwoods. They're sometimes called goose pens because they have been used to house livestock in the past. But if you can imagine where a forest fire sweeps through the base of the tree, and it sometimes forms these kind of teepee-shaped or triangular entrances, and parts of the tree are even hollow, and you can get inside of them. And it reminds me a lot of Harry Potter's Floo Network, where you get inside of these chambers, and then if you know the magic words or if you have the magic substances, then you can snap your fingers and go to another place. But as with everything, you have to be careful about the technology that you use, and you have to make sure that you're prepared for interdimensional travel, as I have cautioned often with the use of one's Merkaba. Like today I was speaking with Holly before they traveled back to Canada, and she said that she would like to be involved in some interdimensional travel. And I said, that is wonderful. We need to treat that desire the same way if you wanted to be involved in international travel. First, because you know something, you're going to need plane tickets, you're going to need your passport, you're going to need to know where you're going and have accommodations there. You're going to make sure that you're going to have snacks for the road and food when you get there. And if you have any other special requirements, like if you need a vegetarian meal or a kosher meal, you need to make sure it's going to be there for you. So in interdimensional travel, one must also be certain of knowing, hey, where's my destination? Where am I going? Is it a safe place? What's the culture like there? Do I speak the language? If I get there, can I get back? Do I require any entry visas? Do I require any special paperwork or identification? Like, these are essential things. Like, I wouldn't just be like, yes, let's send you off into the world and just run about willy-nilly. Like, no, that's not a very safe way of doing things. I mean, you'll certainly have adventures and certainly learn a lot of life lessons, but it's, I think, really important for me as a teacher and a presenter of information to present information in a responsible way. That means that people won't run off into endangered situations. So, yes, in preparing for interdimensional travel, we have to have an itinerary and we have to have our bags packed properly, and you have to make sure that you have, so Mike has a question. Dream work for travel is safe. So, yes and no. You know something? People don't understand necessarily. First of all, when you're in your dream world, you're not swimming around in your own private kiddie pool. You are connected to the ocean of consciousness. Second of all, the ocean of consciousness is occupied by many other consciousnesses and organisms of varying degrees of agenda, you know, organisms who would like to love you, organisms who would like to consume you and eat you and tear you into little bits. So it's really important to understand that and to have the proper vessel. Like, I wouldn't go into the ocean if I only had a little dinghy or like a little tiny kayak. That is not an ocean-going vessel. That's like for staying close to the shore. And if I had a big giant ship, I would want to make sure that I had provisions for a long time. My hyperspace guides are making a joke now, so I will make this joke for them to make sure that a 3-hour tour doesn't turn into a 10-year-long, being stuck on a desert island. Noel says, here we go, Robert Moss is a great source for dream work. I'm not familiar with Robert Moss, and I would like to hear about him. And also, I have to tell everyone, like, I will never say I'm an expert on something that I don't know about or can't do. And part of the neurological deficit in this body was a disturbance at the level of where consciousness shifts from being awake and conscious to being asleep or being in, deeper levels of consciousness. And I have found it very difficult up until this point to do lucid dreaming, to maintain that state of continuity from being here in my awake state and then go down those levels into the dream state and then return up into these levels with a full remembrance of what I experienced. That has been very challenging because at levels going down, I usually experience some disturbances or seizure activity, and then also in waking up. And that I liken to shaking up salad dressing. It mixes up the oil and the vinegar, and then it takes time for things to settle out. So that has been a challenge for me. And I love to learn from experts. So if other members of this class have information about lucid dreaming and that level of consciousness control, I would love to hear about it. So Noel says, oh, interesting. Mike, first of all, says that he got run off from a place in dream experiences. Noel says that Robert Moss uses a lot of indigenous people's wisdom in conjunction with Jung, the Seth material, and his own near-death experiences. Well, really, what I can tell you about is that the dream world is our preparation. Like, in the same way, when you do gymnastics, first you tumble in a place where there's lots of mats so that you can deal with your falls, and then when you become an expert, you can tumble in a place where it's not, totally padded on every surface. So the dream world is our practice realm for experiencing a world of pure mind and pure mental manifestation and pure energy. And it's not just an inconsequential world. When I say inconsequential, like, there are consequences to each of your actions and your experiences and your behaviors in that realm. So, but there are different levels of dream, just like there are different levels of consciousness. During the day, I have different levels of consciousness. Everything on the spectrum from total laser-like focus to total fractionation of my attention. Like sometimes I can be so focused on something and all of my attention is on it, like it might be my artwork or music or something like that. Or sometimes I'm trying to do 12 things at once and I'm not really particularly doing it, like I'm cooking breakfast and feeding the cat and making the coffee and doing all these different things, and my mind is not very focused on any one of those activities. And there's a different quality of energy of, the recording of my life experience based upon how focused my consciousness was on that experience. And this is analogous to our dream state also. Like how focused and present you are in your dream state definitely has an impact on the quality of your recording or the quality of what you're experiencing. And remember that if you are not just playing around, that there are consequences. I certainly have had the experience of being injured in a dream experience and having it manifest in my physical corporeal form. So it's not like, you can act as if it is a world of no consequences, because it's intimately intertwined with the world that we see around us of hard-edged objects. And it's no longer appropriate in this time and place to discard something because it is simply of the mind. I've been telling you about how we are now entering into a new era, which is a blending of the world of pure mind and the world of total matter. Like, now we live in a world of mind matter, matter that responds to consciousness. So it's not appropriate to be like, I just dreamed about that. It doesn't mean anything. Like, dreams are achieving a greater degree of substantiality in this present realm, and material things are achieving a greater degree of fluidity or plasticity or the capacity to shift and change and morph into something new. And eventually, we will be more like dolphins. Dolphins have two hemispheres in their brain, much like we do. However, because they don't live on dry land and they cannot climb into their comfy beds at night and close down both of their hemispheres, because they have to keep on swimming and, like climbing up to the surface of the water and oxygenating themselves, it's important for them to not sleep. So they still need to rest their brains, so they rest one hemisphere at a time. And they rest it in several second increments or intervals. So this hemisphere rests, then it wakes up, and this hemisphere rests and it wakes up. And that leads to their their experience. I can't even say their waking experience. Their experience is very dreamlike. Their waking mind and their dreaming mind are intimately intertwined. They're dreaming awake, and they are really occupying the mind state that we will, or humanity will be occupying as we are undergoing this transformation. So let's also talk about, why is humanity in this position? How come we don't currently have that dream state right now? What happened? Well, I'll tell you, we used to have that dream state. That would be likened to the mythological Garden of Eden, and it's also very similar to the feelings of infancy. Before we have the hacked operating system of the human mind installed into us, and we become verbal and literate, we live in that oceanic state of consciousness that does not differentiate between past, present, and future, and it doesn't anticipate what's going to be happening, and is very much a more dreamlike consciousness. So we are going to be returning to that dreamlike state of consciousness, and we will be much less scheduled, much less time aware, and we will go according to natural bio-body rhythms. Like, when I say that, it means like you eat when you're hungry, you don't eat when the bell dings and tells you that it's time to eat. And we currently eat when the bell dings because we went to school, which trained us to be able to work in a factory or in a cubicle. So let go of the Pavlovian response, like ding, it's time for me to have my lunch, and go by your natural body processes. So, okay. When we went out to the grove, I would recommend that each person do this. You set up ritual in a way that is meaningful for you. So we found a place that worked for us, brought implements that were meaningful and significant, like crystals or feathers or power objects and sage that worked for us, and used the spiritual revocation, the contract, as a template. And then after each person, so also this, I'm doing this for the recording so that people who are watching this later on will understand. I had read over the spiritual contract removal information, but that was more of an intellectual exercise. It's like reading a book about running. It's not actually like exercising, all right? I didn't actually burn the calories. Reading aloud the information in the presence of the witnesses of the large trees was absolutely essential, because our voices cause reverberations. They literally send out sound waves, and those sound waves are very powerful. They have an impact on molecules in the actual physical realm, more so than just mind waves. So this is the power of thoughts and the power of voice. You know, just sending out mind waves is pretty powerful, and it does create reality. Speaking about something really creates reality. So in terms of manifesting, this is, you know, one of the things to learn about. And we each read them in turn. And at one point I thought, like, oh, maybe one person could read for each person. But you know something? There's a very powerful, profound experience that happens when you read this information yourself. Literally, you are recording it with your neurological recording system, and as you're speaking it, all of the beings around you are recording it with their neurological or energy system recording system as well. So all of the living beings that were there, and we were gifted with the presence of many different types of living beings who were showing themselves through the faces of the trees and the mud and the tree bark. And so yes, we and it also it was a thick pamphlet of information to read, and that is part of the journey. And then afterwards, so some of the realizations that I had was the realization of, you know, if I am removing government as my protector, then thinking, but wait, like, then who will be my protector? And also so I also wanted to say this. My experience is a little bit different than other people because I'm a walk-in. So a lot of when Andrew Bartzis writes the contracts, he writes about things that happen in the birth canal and certain fine print and things that are happened during the birth process. And I didn't technically go through the birth process. I incarnated and I certainly walked in, but my doorway was shaped differently than other people. So I added some various amendments or reworded some aspects of the contract in a way that would work for me, because walk-ins have a little bit of a difference in terms of the grace. Exactly, I'm here under like a state of grace, and so it's a little bit different. I don't have the same karmic loops that need to be tied up and the same levels of debt, and I still have the same levels of responsibility. And I'm also feeling I've done 21 minutes and I don't want to spend too much more time talking about this, but I will say that it was a very valuable and powerful activity. And then afterwards, I found a real change in my inner mental landscape, because although I wasn't born into this world, I was submerged into it, and I have been submerged into the social programming about money, the source of economy, taxes, socialization, economy, government, and who is supposed to rule in external authority figures. I certainly have had that imposed upon me, and it feels really wonderful to clear that. And so clearing that and the sovereignty movement itself is part of planetary ascension. So now let me refocus back around to the topic at hand, ascension. And when I mean ascension, I mean a rising of vibration. So I do not, document, Noelle asks, is that document available for us? Absolutely. I don't have a link right at my fingertips. I'm happy to get a link together for the class, but for anyone who is watching this recording or is listening to it, it's available on Andrew Bartzis' website, and you can find him on a Google search, Galactic Historian Andrew Bartzis, Bartzis. And I appreciate his work and the work that he is doing. And the sovereignty movement is basically a movement to say that no one rules you except for your own divine inner connection. That no external authority figure, no government, Mama, Dada, Jesus, Obama, is here and is allowed to tell you what to do. And stating that orally and formally is a very powerful thing. And being witnessed by others who recognize the significance is a very powerful act. And remember, there are levels of our government and levels of the secret, non-elected government that are, powerful in the world. They know the power of ritual. They know the power of being able to use non-physical energy and words and oration in order to control and manipulate reality. And so you should use them also. One of the fascinating and things that I enjoyed the most was the change. In almost every city there is a Masonic temple, and there's tons of Masonic little civic plaques everywhere. Like, you'll find them if you look around your town or your city, and it's always under the guise of civic mindedness. Like, the Freemasons, chapter or lodge, blah 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 blah, donated this plaque, to be good people to help you out, and it has a little Masonic symbol on it. And the whole idea is that is creating a false grid, like the ley lines are the grid of Earth, or like the circulatory system of energy around Earth, that the false grid is created through machinations. It's not created through nature. It is created through machines and through technology, and that it's designed to hijack or divert the energy of consciousness, the energy, we would call it chi or prana or life force, that is the planetary and stellar energy here. So this is all about Earth. This is why I have this big fat painting up here. This is called Birth of a New Dimension, and what an awesome opportunity for me to plug my new show. I now have a new Sunday morning radio show. It's audio only, but it's on UCY, which is an online radio station. So this is Eastern Time, 9 a.m., Pacific Time, 6 a.m., ucy.tv. And all of the episodes are archived. In case you don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. sharp with your coffee in order to listen to me on Sunday morning, you can check everything out. And my radio show itself is called Birth of a New Dimension, because I am talking about all of the social and cultural ramifications of the planetary ascension process. So what I have here in this painting is representation. Thank you so much, Noelle. Thank you. And yeah, definitely like having a peak moment, feeling very happy and proud and gratified that I got the opportunity for this, because it means that I will be able to lasagnify more people. I will be sharing the lasagna vibration to even more people. And this is how things change. Oh, thank you very much, Mike. And thank you for tuning in to the last show. So of course, like people from many different audiences will tune in, and it might be people who are totally unfamiliar with my backstory and who I am, so I have to lay the foundation, which is always takes a little bit of time, but then after I lay the foundation, then I can just jump right into some of these higher concepts. The planet herself as an entity is undergoing this transformation, and the transformation is happening on many different levels. Earth has a consciousness, like a sense of self, like a being, like the way that my cat has a sense of self, or Noelle has a sense of self. Like, the planet has a life, and it wants things in its life. And the planet has been, up until this point, for many ages, for many eons, really abused and exploited. Planet Earth is a creative place. In the same way, like, I classify myself as a creative person. I always make things. I paint and I draw and I sing and I make food. Like, I make things out of things. Well, planet Earth is a very similar type of personality profile. Earth is all about creation and making things. It is a platform for manifestation. And Earth is also a nursery for DNA to explore itself. So first of all, this goes to free will, and this also goes to DNA as a bridge of light and consciousness between the world of uncollapsed waveforms, possibilities of the fifth dimension and above, and the world of the third dimension and hard-edged, actual, experienced reality. That DNA is that bridge between what could happen and what is actually going to happen. And DNA is meant to be free. First of all, it is not only on planet Earth. DNA exists throughout the universe. And I smile a little bit because it's a little bit flat Earth society, like when people couldn't see over the horizon, so they didn't believe that anybody existed anywhere else, and they only believed in people who lived in their little neck of the woods. But yes, it's true that people live on the other side of the planet, and it's also true that DNA exists elsewhere in the universe. Oh, we have someone else tuning in.
Hello, Lucy here.
Hi, Lucy. Good to see you. So while Lucy is tuning in, I'm just going to pause, save what I've got going on the Educreations, and set things up again, and then I'll continue onward. Basically, the idea is that the planet herself, and when I say her, why do I categorize as female? Here in the world of polarized consciousness, we have arbitrarily designated the receptive energy to be the divine feminine, and the aggressive or reaching forward energy to be the divine masculine. When I say aggressive, I would like to contrast that with the word violent, because aggressive doesn't have to mean violent, but I want to choose a word that means to reach out or to send out. So like the sun sends out light, but it does not send out light violently. It's not like I'm stabbing you with sunshine, like it gently sprinkles light on us, but still it is sending that light out to us. There we go, I've got to bring up a picture of the chakras over there. And Earth receives that light. So Earth is a receptive, not passive, but energy system that waits for energy. And it is necessary to have an interplay. It is necessary to have an interplay of these two aspects of energy, sending out and receiving, and then sending out and receiving. And that what we are actually trying to do is achieve this balance and harmony. Unconditional love is literally a tone that is created when you have an equal amount of energy being sent back and forth. In much the same way that the way you make a laser, the way that you make coherent light, is to bounce light back and forth between two mirrors. You bounce it back and forth enough so that everything eventually harmonizes and the waves and peaks and troughs all fit together. So we are talking right now, because I just restarted the recording for Educreations, about changes on a planetary level. Earth's energy for manifestation has been co-opted for many ages. By co-opted, I mean taken out of her control, her energy, and used to manifest and make things happen that she didn't want to happen. So that's like saying, imagine Earth as like a very wealthy, trust fund heiress who has a lot of money. And then imagine like some of these nefarious suitors who come up to her and kind of steal out of her bank account and take her money and use it for their own, fritter it away on their own projects that never really materialize. And then she ends up having no money and the suitors all leave her. This is very similar to what has been going on Earth. We have Earth as a place of divine manifestation, where it is set up as a nursery for DNA to be able to be free and to play and explore itself and create new patterns. When I say play, I mean play like how children play. I also mean play like how musicians play. Because remember, DNA are strings and they are vibrating, and they're vibrating harmonically. That's the definition of music. And DNA has been placed on this planet in order for musicians to jam with each other, so that different DNA can meet and interact and then create new and interesting formats. And this literally means reproductively, biologically, beings are meeting and mating and intertwining their DNA, and don't get stuck in the form. I know that you're wearing a meat suit that reproduces sexually, and that is not the only way to express creativity. That creativity is expressed through everything that we make, everything that we create and emanate with our mind. So if it is ideas, if it is singing, if it is playing an instrument, if it is making an object, engineering absolutely counts as this form of manifestation. Noelle has a question and says, we are transitioning from being meat puppets to autonomous creatures. That is apt, and I really appreciate the way that you said that. This is the sovereignty movement. This is what this is all about. We are not meant to be here and live some mediocre existence, being controlled as a pawn by a larger government or being a small, insignificant aspect of a huge economy that doesn't care about you, or being used as a consumer of the media. You know, like you're just here to pay money for movies and sit in a movie theater and watch it, or you're just here to sit on your couch and watch TV and be programmed by advertisers. Like, no, that is not why you were placed here. That is not your divine purpose here in this time and place, to be just a passive receiver of mass media programming, or to be like a passive eater of processed foods. You are here to be a conscious co-creator with the planet and also with higher stellar consciousness. So the planetary ascension is all about raising the vibration of the planet. And guess what? You and me and everyone else lives on the surface of the planet. So if you raise the vibration of the thing that we're living on the surface of, you're going to raise our vibrations too. And if you raise my vibrations, then you raise the vibrations of all the little tiny one-celled organisms that live on my surface and in my guts too. So one beautiful question that we talked about during the visit with Heidi and Keith and Jen, I believe it was Heidi who asked about, well, when the ascension process happens, what will happen to those 3 trillion gut bacteria that live in all of our intestines? Because it's kind of like this. Have you ever thought about this? The transporter beam on Star Trek, you know, original Star Trek with Captain Kirk. You know, it's like they get into the transporter and then it goes bloop, 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 and then they end up on the planet they want to get to, and you see bloop, 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 and then they solidify it again. Well, somehow that transporter needs to differentiate between who they are and things like their clothing, you know? So that way you don't get your molecules of your clothing and the molecules of your flesh all mixed up. And somehow the transporter needs to make sure that when it tunes into the frequency, like I am going to tune into the frequency of Mike in order to transport him, I also need to include the frequency or the energetic signature of all of Mike's flora and fauna, all of the gut bacteria that live in his gut and all of the yeast colonies that live on his skin and the tiny mites that occupy his eyelashes all have to come along because that's part of your own microcosmic planetary ecosystem. Mike says, very funny, Scotty, now beam down my clothes. Seriously. And we can imagine, like, that would be a very good New Yorker cartoon, like, early attempts at the Star Trek transporter, like, good job, but now I need my clothes. Or, you know, remember to beam down my fillings too. Because I think about stuff like that, like if it's not your actual organic material. So this has everything to do with when you ascend, what do we define as you? Are you your gut bacteria? Are you in control of your gut bacteria? Can you tell them what to do? Like I can say to my hand, like move my hand right now. Can I say to my gut bacteria, you know, digest some protein right now? I don't actually have that level of control over them. And yet those beings that live in this, my planet of my body, of planet Aurora, those beings are my inhabitants. And their life experience is intimately entwined with my life experience. Hey, if I eat a steak, they eat a steak. I ate a steak today. And they are digesting that steak with me. Let's say I don't eat a steak. Let's say it's hunger times and there's no steak. That means they don't get a steak either. This is analogous to our experience with the planet and planetary consciousness. The planet hasn't been getting a steak for a very long time. That means that you and me, as analogous to the denizens of the planet, the gut bacteria that live with the planet symbiotically, we haven't been getting a steak either. And in this case, the steak is analogous to freedom and the capacity to manifest the realities one wishes to manifest by utilizing your pineal gland or your insight or your divine connection to Christ consciousness. For a really long time, our whole planet, I'm kind of moving here into the light so that you can see my face better, our whole planet has been cut off from this chakra, this Christ consciousness, which is the key to being in control of your manifestations. But it's not the only key. There's also, or the lock, the two mechanisms are the violet chakra up here, which is also crucial. So we are now in the time of the ages when, in a planetary wide sense, both the brow chakra and the crown chakra are activated, and the planet herself is waking up to her own innate capacities. And it's kind of like if you're in an abusive relationship with someone who demeans and diminishes you and says, you're nothing, you'll never be anything without me, you'll never make it without me, baby, like that's why I get to push you around. Well, this is what these interlopers or extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional invaders have been doing to Earth for, between 10 and 20,000 years. They came to the planet and they essentially took over and they co-opted Earth's beautiful resources. And Earth's beautiful resources are not just the physical things that you can dig out of the ground, such as lead or molybdenum or gold. Earth's beautiful resources are like the capacity to manifest. Earth is like the goose that lays the golden egg. What's magic about the animal is that it can make eggs every day. And in the story, the farmer was stupid. He thought that the belly was full of gold. If he cut the animal open, he could have all the gold at once, so he killed it cutting it open. This is very much a myth that comes out of the experience of Earth. Mike has a question. Question, are we going to put some of these resources back in the ground someday? I really tell you, you can't go back, you can only move forward. We cannot attempt to rewind and be engaged in a literal renewal of the planetary resources. Like that would mean like we're going to have to take all the radium and all of the uranium and all the things that have been done and put them back where we found them. Like literally, don't try to put all the crayons back in the box of where they first came from. Come up with a new and better formation within which to put the crayons in the box. And Noel puts, in his opinion, Earth will likely reclaim the physical objects we've created. Earth is incredibly powerful and sophisticated. Earth, first of all, like Flat Earth Society, coming up with the idea like, Earth actually can think. Not only that, Earth has a brain or a thinking capacity that's a lot bigger than this brain and can think very well. And Earth is very capable. That's the word that I'm looking for. Earth is an incredibly capable being and entity, and also incredibly loving. So Earth wants to give the inhabitants of Earth an opportunity to raise your vibration instead of just like brushing the dandruff off the shoulder and being like, y'all have to go now. So this is pretty much what has been going on since 2001. This is our period, or your period of grace, within which one might raise one's vibration and not have to leave Earth and Earth's journey. What's going on with planetary ascension is that everybody who lives in or on or in conjunction with Earth. So I'm also talking about any of the discarnate entities who use Earth as their farm. The negativity pain farmers, those beings are also affected by what is happening in this planetary ascension process. Because when you raise your personal vibration and you become a being of pure love, you can no longer be fed upon by someone who doesn't have a mouth to eat love. Eventually, this whole planet is going to be made of pure love. And everyone who lives here is going to be made of nothing but pure love. And anybody who can't eat pure love can't be here and can't be associated with this place. And this is not a punishment. This is not like me, the school teacher, saying, naughty, naughty, you will not be allowed to be here. You will sit in the corner with your dunce cap on. It's not like that at all. It's like saying this. If you don't do your exercises, there's no way in the world you're going to climb up, a mountain of the Himalayas. There's no way in the world you're going to get to the mountain peak. And the realm of pure love that we will be occupying is analogous to a peak of consciousness. You have to develop consciousness muscles to climb up to that height, to climb out of the layers of lower density and get to the higher layers of less dense consciousness. So it takes a lot of effort, willpower, and personal cultivation to get to that realm. And if a person does not or cannot cultivate themselves to that level, you can't be there. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, you're not good enough, you're not allowed to be in the club. Like, no, far from it. You're welcome. You're invited. Be in the club. But that means you're going to have to undergo a strict regimen of exercise to get you in shape to be able to climb the mountain to make it up there. So most of these, demonic or lower vibrational service to self entities that occupy the interstices, they don't have the muscle power to be able to get there. And if they got there, they literally do not have a mouth to eat the food of that realm. And this is the way it's supposed to be. That's the realm that we actually came from. When we talk about the mythological Garden of Eden, we're talking about a realm of pure love. We're talking about a realm of pure divine consciousness with no perturbations in the field, and a place where what you think manifests instantly. So now you can understand how we could begin to move into a world where you wouldn't have to kill and eat objects. You could create directly out of your mind. So I'm using science fiction as a vernacular lexicon of commonality to be able to speak with people in this time and place. And Star Trek is a good example. I'll get to that question in a minute, Mike. Star Trek is a good example of some of these ideas, like the idea of the Star Trek replicator, where you can press a button and speak your request into a machine that then assembles molecules of nutrition into a food substance. So you didn't actually have to kill a cow in order to have a hamburger. You just assembled amino acids into the proper shape and were able to eat it. This is a technological version of what we have done spiritually and energetically, and what we will do again spiritually and energetically. This is part of manifesting. And according to the old paradigm, if we want to eat fried chicken, first you have to get earth to manifest a chicken. Then you have to actually cut off the chicken's head and go through the laborious process of actually soaking it in buttermilk and frying it in lard and all these different things. Then you get to eat the chicken. But if we are using earth as a manifestation portal, what we really need to do is use our powers of imagination, visualization, and manifestation, like the machine of creation, like the creating machine on Star Trek, to envision and think about and imagine fried chicken so vividly that it is created in reality. However, we didn't actually have to kill a chicken in order to do it. And what do we use as the raw materials or the fodder for our imagination? We use our life experiences. I just used the example of fried chicken because, I will tell you, my friend Ian, he can cook a fried chicken that is heavenly. It's manna from heaven. But I don't eat it every day. I don't have to eat it every day. I actually only had it once. It was at a party. And I have detailed sensory recording of what that wonderful substance was like. And I am quite certain that I could recreate neurologically that experience of having that wonderful fried chicken using my mind. And now let's talk about Earth as a place of manifestation portals. Like I was telling you to say, this is a place where DNA gets to be free, run around, meet, create, co-create with other beings, both incorporeal and non-corporeal, and then taste what the experiment tastes like. I need to drink a little something. Earth has certain places on her surface that are powerful portals of manifestation. And those are places like power spots where when you go there, what you are thinking about is magnified. Just like if you're in front of a microphone, whatever you say is magnified. So in many ways, the placement of a microphone can be arbitrary. I mean, it's where it is because it's on a stage, but you could build a microphone or a stage any place. Well, in many ways, these power spots are arbitrary and they are arbitrarily defined. So they're sometimes defined by natural features, such as a special crystal or a special rock formation or a place where there's water or a place where there's a natural amphitheater, but also you can create your own sacred place for manifestation. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh my goodness, I need to manifest. Let me put on my boots and trudge out to the mountain or go visit the river. No, you don't have to do that. You can create an altar or a sacred space of manifestation in your own home, even if you live in a city apartment. And also, one thing you can do is you can go to the actual power spot in place of manifestation. Like we went to the redwoods and we created an energetic pairing Just like you can have a pairing with your Bluetooth technology so that your computer is attached wirelessly to your speaker or your projector, then you can walk away and it's still connected. Same thing with the redwoods. You know, you can pair up with these power spots and places of manifestation. And also, like, I am close to Mount Shasta now, and Mount Shasta, I am under the understanding that it is the violet chakra of our planet right now. And it is a very powerful portal for manifestation. And during September 21st, I usually make some kind of a physical pilgrimage to one of these womb portals or places of manifestation. And on that day, in the area where I live, there were like some bad forest fires on the road, like between me and Mount Shasta. And then there was also a mudslide there. So I didn't go, and I just sat in my backyard. And guess what? I was still able to connect with the beautiful beings that live in and underneath Mount Shasta, even though I'm a couple of hundred, maybe not even 100 miles away, even a couple of hours drive by car. They made it very clear to me that the geographic distance was not separating us because we were energetically connected. So we don't get lost in the form, don't get too stuck in the linear realm of being connected physically to a power spot. And understand that that's why a lot of fighting happens. That's why a lot of wars are fought. Wars are literally motivated by people who want to have possession of the physical place on the planet where these power spots are. But just because you have physical possession of a space doesn't mean that you can use it. Like, just because you own a Stargate doesn't mean you know how to actually use it. See, a question came up here. Okay. So Mike had a question that I pressed pause on. Noel has a question where he says, so Noel is responding to what I was just saying. He says, I've read that it is a place where Saint Germain often hangs out. Yes, the center of, or not even the center of the mountain, because the mountain is like a portal or a doorway into a higher dimensional realm, Agartha, or the inner realm. And there's a beautiful, sophisticated, high technology society that lives there, compared with whom the current society is like Neanderthal. People out here in this time and place are barbarians. Mostly the Agarthans wouldn't want to be friends with most people from out here because it's literally like, ugh, caveman, like I'm gonna pick up my club and club you. But they're also wise enough to take people on a case-by-case basis. So you can certainly, the Agarthans are highly telepathic, and they're friends with Sasquatch, and you can talk with the Agarthans, and you can talk with Sasquatch and make connections, and you do not have to physically fly in a plane to go to Mount Shasta to make friends with Agartha, or to make friends with the people who live there. Even looking at a picture of it or watching a YouTube video of it, these are ways to energetically connect to a place. So back to the rewind question Mike had asked about, so service to self guys like Rockefeller will die off. This is a question about what's going to happen in planetary ascension, and I totally love and respect that these questions are being asked, because it's kind of like saying this. I am telling you that your whole individual body, including your physical presence, is going to get tuned up, cosmically tuned up, so that literally you can transcend the limitations of the physical reality. And in order to do so, you're going to bring certain aspects of yourself and your energy with you, but you're going to leave certain aspects of self or energy behind. Here's a good question. When you ascend, will you bring with you all of the poop in your colon? This is like a funny question, right? It's good. Well, that depends. Is it high vibration poop, or is it essentially inert matter that all of the light and consciousness has been refined out of? And it's just like this with aspects of self. And I used poop as like a funny example, and it's an analogy to aspects of self. Some parts of our inner being are pure gold. They are untarnishable, incorruptible, utterly innately valuable, and they will certainly come with us. And some aspects of self are only valuable in the limited temporal context within which we find ourselves, and are really not valuable in the long term at all. Some things are like a tool or whatever, like, my stylus works on my computer. It's essential items for my computer right now here in this time and place, but it's not exactly like if I left and went to another realm, it wouldn't be something worth bringing with me unless I had an iPad there, and I wouldn't have one there. So aspects of self, like Rockefeller. You're talking about service to self entities. Oh, I'm sorry, I just need a drink because I'm doing so much talking here. Service to self entities have a valuable personality characteristic, kind of saying like, I'm out for me, because sometimes you have to be that way. But it's like poop. That is only relevant and useful to your third dimensional existence here in this time and place. When we become light eaters, you won't be using your colon as a storage unit for poop. You'll be using it for a completely different energetic purpose because you won't be eating solid food anymore. So to use the analogy, like on Earth, there's all sorts of different organisms. Some of the personality characteristics of those organisms are golden, and they deserve to live on eternally. We would call these altruistic, personality characteristics, things that you wish to live on. And there are other personality characteristics that only are moderately interesting or of service here in this particular time and place, and they don't deserve to come with us. And a lot of the competition programming is not appropriate. If you acted the way you act in order to make a left turn in traffic in Manhattan, in Agartha, like they'd never let you in. Are you kidding me? But okay, I hope that you got the analogy there. In Manhattan, to make a left turn in traffic, you have to be aggressive. You can't just sit there being nice and being like, oh, no, after you, oh, no, after you. You have to be like, look, I'm out for number one, and I'm trying to make my left turn here, and everybody get out of my way. Even me, Aurora, when I drive in Manhattan traffic, my friends call me Gangsta Aurora. They're like, yeah, you totally changed, because it is necessary to change. It is laws of the jungle down there, and kill or be killed. But I only apply those laws of the jungle to that particular context. I don't drive like that in the supermarket parking lot. That would be, terrible and totally inappropriate. So not every aspect of life is a fight for survival. And a lot of these personality characteristics that we find untenable, like when you mentioned, Rockefeller or whatever, Henry Kissinger or the Koch brothers or any of these, oligarchs, any of these billionaires, any of these people that own so much and try to control so much, and we say, those do not seem like good personality characteristics. At best, they're personality characteristics that served in this time and place, and also in minute quantity. There's a lot to be said for quantity. When I'm making a recipe, like a dash of salt makes a dish, a shaker full of salt ruins a dish. If you had a whole entire planet filled with Henry Kissingers, that would be like poisoning your whole entire planet. If you have one person, like one little grain of salt, who's like, hey, yes, I think we should practice eugenics, or, any of these ideas that I'm just using him as an example of a real service to self type person. But if we were to, he acts as a cautionary example. The fact that Henry Kissinger exists means I can speak about him and point to him. Just like I could say, don't be like him, look at his waistline, he clearly doesn't exercise and, has too much girth. I can also look at his personality and I can say, clearly aspects of his personality are not engaged in unconditional love, and they can't climb the Himalayan mountain that I was just talking about. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not like our club is going to keep out Henry Kissinger because we're like, nah, nanny poo-poo, you can't come in the club. It's not like that at all. He can't get up there. He doesn't have wings. He can't fly up there. So the planetary ascension process, what we're experiencing in this past decade, actually in these past 13 years. Today is my walk-in day, so I'm 13 years old. In these past 13 years, we have been experiencing a gradual raising of the planetary vibration and of our individual vibrations. And I have seen such a change. Thank you so much, Noel Wrights. Happy walk-in day. Thank you so much. Now I'm reclaiming it and turning it into like a happier, event to be able to celebrate. But the experience itself was a very traumatic experience. So it has taken a long time to be able to be, happy and comfortable and acknowledge this day and everything like that. But that's a very good peak moment. Oh. Noelle says, a very dear great uncle of mine was born on this day. Very nice. So maybe there's some good positive connection there. Just have to drink a little something. The ascension process. So, okay, in the recorded lessons that I sent out, there's lesson 14, part 1 and 2, and a little extra called personal ascension, because after I recorded lesson 1 and 2, I realized there was still more to talk about. It talks all about the physical experiences that we are having as, two-armed, two-legged, one-headed creatures here on the planet, that we are experiencing a variety of different energetic symptoms and consciousness change symptoms, and we're also experiencing social and economic symptoms, and all of this is in the allegory with the planet's change in her experience also. So my Educreations recording is almost done, but I'm not done with what I need to present, so I'm going to press pause on that. There we go. So I talk in the recorded lessons about more specifics. Like, this is the kind of the way I've been doing it in class. I know that the recorded lessons have the specifics of, like, what is ascension? What can you do to make it easier? What can you do to help out your body? What have I been experiencing personally? And I'll do that like as a pretty fast, and I'm also going to turn this off because I think that it makes it harder for you to see the lighting. I think it swamps my face, so I'm too much in shadow and you can't really see me. With the ascension process, a lot of it has to do with food, in much the same way that pregnancy has to do with food. Food right now is our connection to light and to the divine and to higher consciousness. So I found, and I recorded a lot of these lessons during 2012, and 2012 was a crucial time during the planetary ascension process. So, okay, now I have to get into my spiel. Ascension process. That word is very important. Ascension is not necessarily like a snap your fingers, it happened event. It is a process, and it is also a cosmic event, and that means cosmic events can take a very long time according to the human time scale. A cosmic event can take 100 years. You can live a whole human lifetime during what would be considered a cosmic event. It's just like birth. And all of these are analogies we have in the physical realm so that we can learn about what's happening in the non-physical realm. Birth is a process, and it begins with, like all of these different changes in the body, like, oh, like this is happening, the water breaks, and this is happening, but it can take labor can take hours or days. And of course, the actual moment of the child entering out of the mother's body can be on the clock, say it happened at exactly that time, but really the birth process took many hours or days. Ascension is like birth of consciousness. And I know that I have likened our planet to a nursery like a cradle. Consciousness is being born from this planet. And it takes a long time to be born. We have been experiencing labor pains and contractions. Those labor pains are perceived as environmental changes, environmental instability, social instability, economic instability. And in your personal, individual, private realm, you might feel it as discomfort, either in your physical body or your life circumstances or your energy body. And I know that there are some support groups on Facebook and some other places where people get together and they discuss their ascension symptoms. So like one example of an ascension symptom is sometimes I hear a very high-pitched tone that begins in this ear and then it moves into this ear. It's like boop. And I think I've spoken about this before, and I will tell everyone there is nothing to be concerned about if you hear or experience similar symptoms. That has to do with activating your pineal gland. Mike says that he has heard tones. When you hear tones, sometimes it might sound like boop, or it might sound like ding, or sometimes it almost sounds like, to me, like going from, if you ever went in a swimming pool and you got water in your ears, and then like hours later, the water suddenly goes out of your ears and everything gets louder. It's like all of a sudden I can hear. I get that sometimes. Like the world is muffled and then all of a sudden it's like a sudden clarity. Or I also sometimes experience it visually, where I will sometimes just have this like sense of like energy washing over me, and all of a sudden my eyesight is clearer. And I felt it a couple of times in the redwood groves, and sometimes it coincides with like a feeling of my heart opening, or sometimes like it brings tears to my eyes. Like I associate it with a very positive, good thing. So I'm not sure if I missed a comment that was down here. Yeah, so okay, ascension symptoms. So these are some, and when I talk about ascension, and I talk about this in the recorded lessons, I am defining it as a raising of the vibration. And from earlier in the semester, I spoke about vibration being defined by both wavelength and frequency. So what we're talking about is the chakras on your body, or the waves that are making up your light body, are moving at a particular rate and in a particular pattern. And ascension is essentially moving those waves in a faster pattern and at a faster rate. So we are like a symphony on this planet. I'm going to get to that question in a second. We're like a symphony, and we are each individual musicians, and we're all playing together. And Earth is like the conductor, or perhaps we would say the sun is like the conductor. But there's an overarching consciousness that is controlling this, and that is bringing the tempo up and making us play faster and faster and faster. And as we're playing faster, things are changing on a genetic level, on a cellular level, on a neurological level, like meaning the amount of energy and information that you can perceive and process is moving faster. And this, it can be seen literally with technology that we use, like an iPad. Like, oh my goodness, I'm sure that you guys remember this. When the internet first became available, the time it took to load a page, it was like you would click on something and then it would be like, okay, like it's loading, and then several minutes later you get to look at the thing that it took time to load. Now it's like instantaneous, like, oh, I click on a thing and it's right there. And people don't sit around and wait. Like if it took a long time to load, no one would be sitting around waiting for that thing. Everybody has raised their vibration. Everybody has raised their frequency. You can't go slowly anymore. You have to do things at the current pace. And the current pace is only going to get faster. And this also has to do with what is presented in the media. Like someone recently on Facebook said, like, hey, what about that missing plane, you know, the MH17 missing plane? Doesn't it feel like that was in the media a million years ago? Because everything is moving at this accelerated rate. So the information is being presented more. There's more density of information that is presented. There's more put into each one of us during each moment. And also, as your consciousness speeds up, you are able to fit more into a day or into a moment. So this is time, the subjective experience of time is going to become very evident. What I mean is, you know something? Sometimes when I'm making artwork or playing the piano, hours go by this fast, and all of a sudden I'm like, what? It's time to feed the cat? Like, I can't believe the afternoon is over. But of course, if you're working on something that is boring or stultifyingly difficult, it seems to take forever. Like I was on hold with that operator forever. It's like, no, it wasn't forever. It was 45 minutes, but it felt like forever. This subjective experience of time has everything to do with the rate at which you are moving. When you're moving at a very fast rate, you can fit in more information, more experiences, more perception, and more emotional processing. When you're moving at a slower rate, you can't fit in as much. You can't understand and perceive as much. So the richness of your experience is going to intensify. The depth that you can experience, when I say depth of experience, the complexity, like not necessarily bad depth, you know, like not like depth of depression, but the complexity of what you can experience in one day is going to increase a lot. And at a certain point, you will not want to waste any more time, because wasting an hour in this new realm will be like wasting weeks or months or years in the past. You know, sitting around for an hour being like, I'm so bored, like I wish I wasn't in this waiting room, I wish I could be doing something like painting a painting or something, whatever. That's because your soul soul is understanding at the rate we are moving right now, cosmically, in a planetary sense, and not just our planet, our entire solar system. Our entire solar system is increasing its frequency, or the rate at which it vibrates. This has had visible changes to the weather patterns on Jupiter. Jupiter has those bands of color and a big giant eye. That's a storm. Well, it recently lost one of those giant bands of color. That would be analogous to if North America lost the jet stream. It's a huge change in the pattern of that planet, and it's been that way since humans have been able to observe with telescopes. Same thing with Saturn, which has shown an increase in its surface temperature and has a strangely shaped hexagonal pole storm, like where we get our auroras at the poles. There's a hexagonal storm on Saturn. There are shifts in the behavior and qualities of all of the planets that are in our star system, and that's because our star is raising its vibration, and it's not just our star, it's our entire galaxy. So now we get down to this. From the tiny little bacteria that occupy our small intestine to the largest galactic-sized entity, everyone here is raising their vibration. And there's no way to escape it, and there's no way to get around it, and there's no way to delay it or stop it or put it off. That's the good news, because the beings, the cabal, the Illuminati, the overlords, those beings, the only way that they have been able to maintain their power is by obfuscation and dragging their feet. They make everything take so long that they're dragging it out, and they don't have to face the music, they don't have to face their karma yet. Well, this is all about no more dragging it out. You know something? It's time to, I will use a crude phrase, it is time to shit or get off the pot. It is time to resolve all of these issues and go to where you need to go. And when the planetary ascension happens, a variety of things will occur. You could imagine it like a refinery. In a refinery, you get different material of different qualities. So there would be pure gold coming out here, gold that has 24 karat gold here, 18 karat gold here, and then over into this zone, all of the impurities, all of the black stuff and everything like that. Things that need to be refined further. With the ascension process, this means that consciousness is going to go on its journey, but not everybody has the same destination. So Earth is right now is very much like a train station, and we are all passengers, and you have your ticket. We're not all getting on the same train. There are some people that are getting on the train that is I have honed my consciousness, my spiritual muscles are developed, and I am ready to enter into that realm of pure love. It's a daunting realm. That's the place where you don't hide your fears from anyone, where you are totally authentic, where you are totally present. Mike asks, is there a part of the ascension that is supposed to happen in a few months? Good question. Okay, I will be happy to tell you the basics. In birth, first your water breaks, and then your cervix dilates, and then there are uterine contractions, and then the baby comes out, and then the placenta comes out, and then it's pretty much the end, okay? So we have been undergoing this period of grace since 2001, where people are essentially choosing up their sides. You're choosing your affiliations and your associations. And you do that behaviorally and also with one's belief system. And all of that has been backstory for what's happening next. So the first thing is, it's like playing basketball. Everybody choose sides, figure out what team you're on. And then the next thing is literally a coming together of these two dimensions, or these divergent dimensions. So there is a heavier, more dense realm and a lighter, less dense realm, and those two realms are coming together. Remember, this is what the flying rainbow lasagna is. Your inner realm of pure energy and consciousness and emotion is being combined with the outer realm of hard-edged objects. Well, physical beings who occupy the outer realm of hard-edged objects are going to be coming together with and meeting beings who are from the inner realm, or beings who are made of pure energy or pure light or pure consciousness. So this is the next stage of the birth process, or the ascension process. And it doesn't happen in one day. People think flying saucers will land on the White House lawn and this is how it will happen. Like, there's a lot of people, they write about disclosure. There's a lot of expectations about how this will happen. And from my personal understanding of it, disclosure does not require landing on the White House or take me to your leader or anything like that. It's individuated. And they are already here, and it is happening on different levels of consciousness. Like, some people are being contacted in their dreams or in their dreamlike meditation states, but not in their waking consciousness. Some people are contacted in their waking daily consciousness, and when I speak with them, like, of course, it's all throughout my consciousness. People need to understand, when they start to arrive, it's not like they're going to arrive in a clank vehicle. They will arrive by, like, if you're, let's say, looking at redwoods or looking at foliage, rearranging what you see into seeing a face. Like, you will see the leaves of a bush rearrange itself, and then you'll see that there is a face in that bush. And when it gets really clear, it will literally be like just the pixels of reality are being rearranged into the being that you are speaking to. This is not a place that you can fly to in an airplane. Like, Agartha is not a place that you can get to if you took a shovel and dug through the crust of the earth, no matter how much you dug. Like, you can't get there by digging there. You get there through vibratory channels. You get there through vibratory travel. And we do that by cultivating our energy field, by accreting light, by learning to use something, a travel vehicle like the Merkaba, and by preparing ourselves in cultivating unconditional love for when we meet these beings. And understand that when you meet these beings, you are kissing yourself in the mirror. My experience, when I first found myself in a human body, there was a first time when I had not yet reconnected with my extraterrestrial, brethren. There was a first time when we were coming together, and I remember it. I remember the rising fear that I felt as I felt this consciousness coming closer and closer to me, because I didn't know that it was myself. And these are similar to the fear barriers that people face when they're undergoing psychedelic journeys. It is literally just breaking through a barrier of consciousness or getting up to the next quantum level, that you have to break through these barriers of fear. So once I actually met that alien or seemingly alien other extraterrestrial being, I realized it was myself. It was my own aspect of self. And that not only was there nothing to fear, that the only things that were being reflected back to me out of this mirror were things that were internal and inside of me. And this is really the lesson. When one begins, and when I would predict that when all of you begin to interact overtly with extra-dimensional and extraterrestrial entities, it will be part of the great learning curve about yourself. You'll be, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm meeting this person. This is who and what I am inside. There was I would just refer to a TV show in order to bring it up. There was Steven Spielberg made a show called Taken, and it was about beings who had abducted humans, and then some of the humans, were returned, and then on their deathbed, before they died, one of these extraterrestrials returned to help guide them into the next realm of consciousness. And in this TV show, basically the being who arrived as your guide, you would see and interpret that being as whomever you wanted. If it was Jesus, or if it was Buddha, or if it was your long lost love, or someone who had died, or an old relative, that's who it would be. Because it was all a projection of who you are inside of, who and what you are inside. And as I'm saying this, so I'm talking about ascension as abrogating the necessity of death. That's a heavy one. Let it sink in. For a very long time, life on Earth has been ruled by the force called death. Death which severs continuity of consciousness. Death which prevents you from taking the wisdom that you have gained and the talents and skills that you have learned from one lifetime into the next. How very frustrating it must be. Wow, you know something? I learned all of these great things about math and science and how to build machines that work, and then I died, and then I was born as a tiny child, and I was pooping in my pants again, and I forgot all the stuff that I knew about math and science and how to build things, or how to play the piano, or to sing like an opera singer, or any of the beautiful talents and skills that we have cultivated in ourselves. How amazing will it be when we have the capacity to take with us the things that we have cultivated in our experience in this time and place into the next time and place where we go. So that would be analogous to like saying, yes, when I was Aurora and I lived on Earth in that time and place, I learned how to play the violin or learned how to play the piano. And then I moved to another planet. They don't have pianos on that planet, but that doesn't matter because I took the capacity to learn music in the way that I learned how to learn music, and I can apply it to the musical instruments that they have on this totally brand new planet. The point that I'm bringing up here, what I'm trying to focus in on and say is that there are new options available to you, me, and everyone who's on the planet right now. Death has been programmed in as an inevitability, and this is part of the cultural programming that one must break through and rise above. Terence McKenna says, culture is your operating system and culture is not your friend. And it's true. Culture is literally trying to kill you. It is literally programming you for death. Ascension and becoming an ascended master. So I'm sorry that I'm doing this at the end instead of at the beginning, defining terms. Death to death, I agree, death to death. The ascension is a process. And when you have completed the process of ascension and fully transmuted your physical form into a higher dimensional state and fully mastered your mind and your perception and your capacity to manifest, you are then an ascended master. So I would qualify myself as, yes, I am a master. I have mastered my mind, my perception. It's like saying I'm in control. I'm in control of my body. I don't have spastic limbs that wave all over. I'm in control of my mind. I don't have a mind that thinks, willy-nilly, hither, thither, and yon, that's thinking all this different stuff. I control my mind. However, I still have a physical body. Look, I have a physical body. Look, I drink juice. I drink physical juice. That is because I am in the process of ascending. And I used to be quite impatient. Like I told you, in 2003, when I had the experience of surrender and went up on the mountain, I was literally prepared to ascend in that moment. I thought that was it. I thought I had done everything I needed to do and integrated everything I needed to integrate, and I was wearing a cute dress that would look good while floating upwards. So I was interpreting things very literally. I had a lot of, expectation based on religious programming that the rapture or the ascension would be a literal physical process of floating upward. Well, I will tell you, the upward movement is an upward movement of consciousness. We have floated upward into higher dimensional mental realms. However, when I walk, I still walk with my feet on the ground, but my experience of reality is different, and reality continues to change. So basically, the reality that we're experiencing will become a more and more magical or supernatural reality. The supernatural will become the natural. That will be normal. So having extrasensory perceptions will be normal. Speaking to someone who's not here and alive in a body in this time and place will be normal. Or saying, I was speaking to a bush that had the face of an alien today and it told me this. That is normal. This is where we are in this transition of talking to beings from other realms. And likewise, concurrently, their normal is changing too. Because remember, we're talking about beings who would be described as angels, who occupied a hyperspace realm and were really cut off from the creativity and the opportunities and the juiciness of being connected to or submerged to beings in the third dimension. Well, those beings are no longer far removed from the realm of activity and emotion. Angels, when I have connected with them, they often are very removed, like they're not necessarily immersed in the passion of what we are experiencing. They have a more balanced perspective. They're more abstract. They're good to talk to because that way you're getting more of the abstract, but they don't necessarily have that experience of passion from having the direct experience of being here. Well, guess what? Angels are going to become a lot more passionate, a lot more emotionally juiced up. But think about that. Think about how, children and emotions affecting children, it can be very powerful. And so we, in many ways, have to be models of behavior for extra-dimensional and hyperdimensional beings as they begin to use emotion. We need to teach them, how to be affectionate, how to raise families and raise children, or we can model how to do reproduction and have families and do exchange of emotional energy on this level. So, okay, I'm sorry that I keep cutting off like that, but I have to keep redirecting myself. I am here to offer you a new option, and that option is that you do not have to die corporeally. You can if you want to. Like if you have a diseased body, or if you are tired of your identity, or if you are tired of your life circumstance, or if you are simply interested in something radically new and different. Like I have a beautiful aunt, she is might be 99 at this point, and she's still alive, but going slightly blind, but her mind is still sharp. She has options. She can choose to ascend, or she could choose to die corporeally and be born in a new body in this new social and cultural context that we are building. And she might choose that because she might be like, something, I'm bored with living in the body of a 5 foot tall, Jewish woman. I want to live in the body of a 7 foot tall black man. Because it's a different experience. She might choose to be born in a totally different time and place. She might say, I'm tired of living in the United States. I want to see what it's like to live in China or Japan. So she might choose to be born in that culture. So one must never cast aspersions on someone who chooses to die corporeally. And there are other options available to us now. So first of all, total cellular regeneration through spiritual technology. As we are coming together with our higher dimensional, other dimensional selves, really our other halves, they are incredibly adept at healing the cellular body and healing and manipulating the cellular form. So I already, in my experience here as Aurora, I've had many, many operations and a lot of help from these higher dimensional doctors. So they are able to have an impact on your flesh body. They are able to have an impact on your flesh body. And not only that, but in the past couple of years, the energy transference has become easier. So they have become even more powerful and better able to help heal your physical body. So last year, the spirit doctors that helped me out, they said that there's literally a non-physical hyperspace hospital, like a spirit hospital, that is designed and waiting for every single person that needs healing on this planet. There's a team of doctors and caregivers and nurses that will help you through whatever physical transformation, mental, emotional transformation, releasing of harmful emotional patterns of the past, releasing addictions, whatever is the problem. So I get a lot of help with neurological reconstruction and overcoming the epilepsy and the neurological deficits that I experience. And whatever is your need for healing, there's a whole team of non-physical doctors that it's their job. They are so happy to do it, and they're stationed just outside of this reality, waiting to help people on a massive level. Because just as it is necessary to heal the whole planet, as the planet is ascending, you have to heal every cell on the planet's body. So guess what? That not only applies to you and me and everyone who we would consider of like vibration, that also applies to people like, the Rockefellers, the Kissingers, the Koch brothers, the people who own Walmart, like those, high up people. So this goes down to the question of, do you take your gut bacteria with you when you ascend? And the answer is actually yes, you do. Your energy, which is raising in vibration, is affecting your gut bacteria. And they're also raising in vibration. But when you get to the world where you no longer have to eat physical objects to survive, having 3 pounds of gut bacteria is not going to serve you. So they won't be there anymore. Those little bacteria, when they transmute, or when they change shape and form of what they are, when they change from being like solid energy into non-solid or light energy, they will no longer be occupying your intestines, but they will rise to their next highest assignment. Everybody gets bumped up the ladder, so they'll go on to their next highest assignment. Same thing with everything. The little tiny organisms that live on your eyelashes, the organisms that live in your armpits, they will all go somewhere good. They'll go where they need to go. Same thing with Rockefeller, Koch brothers, Kissinger. They can't climb the mountain. Their personality aspects are not well honed. If they were well honed, I say this because I can hear someone who's listening to this saying, Aurora, how can you tell that Henry Kissinger's personality aspects are not well honed? Because if they were, he would be more loving. He would be more accepting of humanity. He would not be looking to something like, a planetary plague to wipe out 90% of the population in order to achieve the socioeconomic goals that he embraces. Everything about his value system is not in alignment with the ascension process and who the planet will be when the planet ascends. We won't have money. We won't have an economy as it currently exists. That won't be necessary. That's because my divine guidance will say to me, my divine boss inside will say, Aurora, I need to paint a painting. And Noelle's divine guidance will say, I need to make this music. And Mike's divine guidance will say, I need to create this free energy device. And Lucy's divine guidance will say, I need to perform this dance or gather people together in this social community. And it won't be motivated by money. It will be because we know on a deep level that this is what we need to be doing. Essentially, we'll all be doing what we are already doing, but it won't be because we have the grind. Like, oh, I got to earn money so I can pay the bills, so I can pay the rent, so I can do everything. All of that has been the system of slave domination and control to keep people running on the wheel, to keep you not focused on the ascension. So this is the best message that I can give to you. And then I'm going to open the floor to questions, and then I'm going to wrap it up. That really, your job right now is not doing what society tells you. Society tells you that your job is to have a job and earn money and then be a consumer. Go get a job, you dirty hippie, and go earn some money and then go shop at Kmart and buy something, right? This is what society wants you to do. Society wants to distract you with mass media, give you things to be afraid of, and program you with things to buy. Like, you now need to go out and purchase this object. Society doesn't want to tell you, it's time for you to sit down and meditate. Or it's time for you to sit down and focus on your ascension. Or it's time for you to sit down and connect with Earth and ask her how her ascension experience is going. Everything in the world is designed to take your attention away from that. So you have to be very protective and gallant and say, you know something? No one else is going to prioritize my ascension process. I have to prioritize my ascension process. And the ascension process can also lead to socio-cultural economic changes. It might mean that one leaves a form of employment that is no longer in divine harmony with your ascension process. And a form of employment or an actual workplace that might not be in alignment with the ascension process. So you might work in an allopathic doctor's office where all of a sudden when you ascend or when you get to a certain level of consciousness, you're like, I don't believe in this type of medicine anymore. And you might then go and work instead in a acupuncture clinic or, someplace where there's hands-on healing that's more in alignment with what you're doing. So same work, but redirecting, or perhaps redirecting entirely. And I think I was telling this to Mike in a personal visit when he was at our home, that we will each have new chapters. Because you asked about, is there something going on in the next couple of months regarding ascension and the planet? Well, we will each have new chapters. And this has to do with closing the chapter on your previous identity. Who you were in the past, what you defined you as you in the past, and that is about everything, how you earned your money, where you lived, who you associated with, and you'll be exposed to new things, new people, new ideas, new opportunities, and a new way of finding the resources that you desire and require in order to live. And in many cases, it will be a confirmation of who you already knew you were. Like if you already knew that you were meant to be a person who like digs in the earth and works with plants, and that working under fluorescent lights and working in a cubicle was never right for you, it's like now you're going to be coming in alignment with that true self, because there is no more time for prevarication. There is no more time to bullshit. There is no more time to pretend or play around. Now is when you show who you really are. And this is also a huge time in terms of not compromising in your interpersonal relationships. Like if you have someone in your life who is negative or unhealthy or involved in doubt or addiction or brings you into those states of negativity, doubt, or addiction, now is the time for you to be like, we are at the train station, but I am getting on this train and you are getting on that train. And there's no judgment involved in this. There's only pragmatism. You can't climb a mountain if you're carrying a heavy satchel full of rocks, and the rocks are the baggage of the past or the addictions of the past or whatever. And you can't carry other people getting up the Himalayan mountain. You and I together cannot carry Henry Kissinger up the mountain of spirituality. We can only carry our own form, our own self. I can't carry my cat either. Even though I would love to take her with me, I cannot carry her with me. She has to come on her own four paws. And the answer is yes. If you have animal companions to whom you are in love with and bonded with, of course they can ascend. Of course they will ascend. All of the consciousness on this planet is ascending, including redwoods, blue whales, plankton, lichen, viruses. Viruses are ascending. But what would that mean, class, in terms of if a virus is one of these beings that occupies the interstices and can't eat pure love, if a virus ascends, what would happen? What would it turn into? I'll answer the question myself. It would poof. It would poof out of existence. It's like saying this thing was never meant to exist in the first place and it's been causing tons of misery anyway. It's not supposed to be here. So when we complete this ascension process, you won't remember it, you won't notice it, but there will be a lot of empty spaces of things that used to be here that aren't here anymore because they were never meant to be here. And you won't think about them because you won't remember them, because it will really be like a cleansing or purifying of things that weren't meant to exist. So I would like to open the floor to any questions. Okay, Mike does have a question. As a part of the ascension, why is the third chakra so much more trouble to master than the first or second chakra? In my opinion, the third chakra is not harder to master than the first or second chakras. You know something? The first chakra is the physical body, right? I think it's very challenging to master the physical body. That would be like being a yogini, who can consciously control their heartbeat, consciously control their digestion and their neurology. It would be like being a meditation master that can be like, I'm going to put myself in the alpha state. Now I'm going to put myself in delta waves. Now I'm going to do theta waves. Like it is, or even being a gymnast. I would say you have totally mastered your first chakra if you can, do like 17 backflips like a gymnast, or if you can run 26 miles. Like that requires mastering the first chakra, the physical body, and to work with that. Let's say this, emotions. Mastering emotions. This is very hard. This is like saying you have achieved the perspective of the context of emotions and when they arise, and not merely reacting in a reactionary method against the beings who, like to react in anger or to react in sadness or to react in grief, but to say, I'm going to observe myself having those emotions, but not actually react or act on them. Like, I think all three of those chakras are a challenge to bring under control or bring into alignment. And I also think that it's a challenge to have an open heart and to cultivate unconditional love. I also have been experiencing a lot of challenges with this chakra, the Christ consciousness chakra. I have really found that it has a lot of, it's been co-opted by the patriarchal culture. So there's a lot of associations with the behavior of this chakra with patriarchal behavior. And whenever it starts acting up in that way, I say, you know something, the Christian religion has been used as a tool of the patriarchy, but the Christian religion is not synonymous with the activities of the pineal gland and the third eye. So, like, I talk to my chakras when I say they are not living up to who and what they're supposed to be and who and what they are. So we can communicate to our chakras as non-physical energy beings and non-physical energy centers. And we can say, hey, you know something? I am supposed to be in charge here. I am supposed to tell you what to do, and I am here to cultivate you. So, but I think I understand the direction that you're asking your question from. I would say that the mind, which is implanted at the level of yellow, the human mind, the hacked operating system, that has a huge impact on all of the chakras and all of the physical body and your emotions and your mind and your perception. Like, it seems like that yellow chakra has is like the problem child, has a lot of difficulties. That's really the center of what needs to be cleaned out. That zone needs a lot of help with humanity and on the planet. And if we can just clean out that zone, all of the other zones get cleaned out. The patriarchy contamination of this chakra, the emotional contamination of, the red and orange chakras, like that all gets fixed up. I hope I answered your question in a way that was fulfilling. Good. Comments, questions? Here we go. Question from Noel. Do you have any suggestions to help maintain sleep? I have sleep apnea and use a CPAP machine, but I would prefer to have a more natural sleep. My dreams get interrupted a lot. I have used a supplement with melatonin, lavender, and valerian, which does help some, but I only use it for a few days at a time. I think that's wise to limit your use of melatonin because I have heard that it can have adverse aspects of the awakeness of your pineal gland. So I think that our pineal gland is like any muscle, that it can be used, but it can be used or stimulated into overuse, and that it's important not to do that. So yeah, I would say cautionary use on the melatonin. Okay. Getting good sleep has to do with your circadian rhythm, and being exposed to sunlight can really help with this. So it does really help to get up when the sun is getting up and bathe your face in early morning sunlight. Like literally expose your forehead and your face and your pineal gland to the sun when it's first coming up, and also expose your face and your forehead to the sun when it's setting. During those 2 times of day, the filtering of the light has a particular quality, and it has a particular, like the light has a particular color that programs your pineal gland and your circadian rhythm to say, like light is going down now it is time to be restful. And I know it can be hard because it starts to get dark at 4:30, but after the sun goes down, try not to do very stimulative activities. Like, something, the blue light that is created by these LCD monitors is very similar to the stimulating qualities of sunlight. And so I have heard that it's not good to use an iPad or a computer monitor at least an hour before bed, because it's like looking into the sunlight and it is telling your circadian rhythm to be awake, be awake, be awake. So what I practice for myself is sleep hygiene. And I had this because I had so many difficulties with, getting good restful sleep. Your bed is only supposed to be used for sleeping and sexual activity. Your bed is not supposed to be used for like reading a book in bed or talking on the phone or anything other than just sleeping or resting, because when you get into bed, your body should be programmed like, now it is time for me to sleep. Your body shouldn't be like, oh, now it's time for me to watch TV. Definitely don't get into the habit of getting into bed and turning on Johnny Carson and then falling asleep to Johnny Carson. That's like not optimum. So the optimum thing is to go with sensible wake and sleep cycles as much as possible, as much as your profession allows, like, and to only use your bed for purposes of sleeping. And I don't take supplements myself, so I could not recommend, like something that really works, but like programming your circadian rhythm would hopefully be something that would help. Let me ask you this, Noelle. Do you find problems with being like sleepy at the right times? Like are you sleepy at bedtime at 10 or 11, or do you feel like, no, I'm awake at 10 or 11 and I can't fall asleep? Like, do you fall asleep and then have trouble staying asleep, or have trouble falling asleep? Because another thing to be cautious of is the things that are in your bedroom. Certain things can keep you from getting restful sleep, like electronic equipment, computers, flashing lights, Wi-Fi routers, any of these things. You think it's not having an impact because your eyelids are closed, but flashing lights and those little electronic LED lights that are all on everything, those definitely have an impact. So if you can, keep electronic devices outside of the bedroom. Answer from Noelle regarding sleep troubles. I don't have any trouble falling asleep, but I have trouble maintaining sleep because of the sleep apnea. So yeah, that's a mechanical issue with your particular, the formation of your particular fleshy body. So if at all possible, remove like electronic or stimulating devices. Make sure that you don't have like flashing lights or even street lights coming in from the outside. That the light stimulation definitely can be one thing that's a challenge in terms of going to sleep and staying asleep. Mugwort, that is the answer that just came to me. I have heard that a sachet of the herb mugwort under your pillow, or smelling that smell before bed, is supposed to give you dreams that you remember and give you restful sleep. So that might be something to try. I don't know, Lucy might have information about mugwort. That was one person who I think had told me about that. Those are my best suggestions, or that's my best response right now. Lucy says that mugwort is indeed good for dreaming. Excellent. Oh, and you know what else, man? Noelle, there's yoga poses that you can do before bed that help to cultivate good rest. Like there's yoga poses for waking up in the morning for getting energized, to give you energy and give you a kick in the butt. There's yoga poses that are for resting and calming down at the end of the day. So I don't know them myself because I am like not well trained with yoga, but I would recommend finding your particular like body regimen. So Noelle says, great, I do yoga, so I will ask my teacher. Yeah, that's perfect. I want to learn yoga. I do not know formal yoga, but I do a series of body movements and stretches before I go to sleep. That's kind of like programming my body. Like when you were a little kid, if your mom or dad ever read you that book, Goodnight Moon, or like did the thing where you walk through the house saying goodnight to everything, it is programming your body. Like now it is time for rest and now it's time to power down. And that's something that we spoke about this weekend amongst friends, that our society has a lot about, like time to get up, time to get caffeinated, time to get moving, but doesn't have a similar symmetrical program for time to power down. Now it's time to become quiet. Now it's time to become ready for rest and sleep at night. Noelle says meditating before sleep should help too. I would say so, because that's giving you that good transitionary state in between being awake into being asleep. And Lucy also recommends for good sleep magnesium oil. So that's interesting. I haven't heard about the use of that supplement for good sleep. So it is almost 8 o'clock. I'm going to wrap it up. Oh, so the question for the people who need me to read this out to be able to hear it. You rub the magnesium oil on the body in order to get restful sleep. So that is excellent information to know about. And sleep is, okay, here, I'm going to be ending the recording.